All right, Coach Walker, cornerback coach at Western Illinois University, in his car. Thanks for being here.
Sir. In the car, on the field, anywhere, man.
Well, that's what we do as coaches, right? We adapt no matter what happens.
That's a fact. That's a fact. Adapt and overcome.
Yes, sir. Don't be mad about my Eastern logo behind me. I did go to Eastern, so please don't.
Hey, it's all good, man. I was a Panther once upon a time too, man. But now I'm a Leatherneck, baby. You know what time it is.
When did you go to Eastern?
I went to Eastern Illinois 2012 through 2017. Had a very fun time to be there.
You know what's crazy, Coach? I was there the same time.
Really?
I got there in 2009.
Oh, okay. So you were. So when did you graduate? 13?
Yeah. Well, I took the 5-year route, so it would have been 14.
Right. Likewise, man. So wait a minute. You trying to see where we may have overlapped, because I was there 2012 through 13. That was an awesome time, if you don't remember.
Oh yeah, I helped out spring ball for a year when Babers was there. I was.
Oh, I remember you, Coach. Okay, that's what's up, man. That's awesome. Look, that's how small the world is, man. And that's what I'm learning too, man. The older I get, I come across people from all over the world, especially when we go to the convention and whatnot. And there's so many people that come off of that coaching tree in particular. It's amazing to see what football has done, not only for Eastern Illinois, but for people everywhere, man. It is really cool to see the web,
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Well, because it's funny, your name sounded familiar, but I was just like, I've probably seen it on Twitter, like never thought twice about it. But now that you said that, I'm like, I was around there, and I helped, like, that was back when high school coaches I was coaching at Charleston High School.
Okay, word. Oh, yeah, yep, exactly right. I remember your face.
Oh, I'm sorry, you remember this ugly little face. I don't know if I had the beard.
Right. We all got a little mud going on, man. It's all good. We ain't getting this thing to be pretty.
Well, because I tell people when I helped out spring ball, Charleston, spring ball is what, 55 degrees, something like that. So it's like,
yeah, man, it's a little chilly, especially at the beginning. 55 might be a little generous at the end, toward the end of spring ball, it's getting a little warm out there. But at the beginning, spring ball used to be a little miserable, man. It was cold.
Well, I remember Coach Babers, he would come out in like a freaking parka because he's like, I'm from the South, man. This ain't working. And I'd start laughing. And I'm like, I'm in shorts. And I'm like,
yeah, man. It's something about y'all, the people who were in Charleston a little longer than myself, especially 2012 through 2013, man. I used to see those folks come out with shorts on like as soon as 50 degrees hits. But see, I come from a different era. My house, my mom used to call that pneumonia weather. That's the tricky stuff, man. Like you get to dressing like it's summertime, and next thing you know, you're sick.
Oh yeah, well, because I grew up by Champaign, so it was the same weather. So to me, exactly. It was nothing.
That's what's up, man. It's a small world, dude. This is really cool. Connections.
Oh, absolutely, I love it because as soon as you said EIU from that, I was like, yeah, I think I remember who he was. I think I remember because did you play you played defense or offense? I can't even remember.
Man, when I first got there, I thought I was going to play slot receiver. Since I was an offensive guy, to my core, I just wanted to catch the touchdowns and look cool.
Yeah.
Right. But Kim McLeod, kind of took me under his wing, and he straight up asked me, he's like, hey, we got about 4 DBs right now, man. You want to be the fifth? And I was like, you know what? Let's do it. Any opportunity that I got to get on the field, especially as a walk-on, I was going to take that opportunity, man. So that's what happened. So I came in thinking I was going to play offense, immediately switched to defense. And it was one of the best things to ever happen for me and for my career.
Yeah, I walked on there in 2009. Spoo was still the head coach.
Yep.
And I was 275-ish. I wanted to play offensive line. I walked in and they said, boy, you're too small.
Wow. Yeah, we were big back then, too. Like, even when Dino Babers was there and that whole regime, like, we were kind of bigger than everybody else that we played. Like, we were faster than everybody else, too, so it was the perfect storm.
Oh, yeah, especially because he wanted that ball snapped in 10 or 12 seconds. And he had that stopwatch standing there. And There was one spring practice, I think it was like 15 or 16 seconds, and he flipped. He was like, "We gotta be
Yeah,
faster. We gotta be faster." Which
absolutely.
then on defense, you guys had to play faster. If you're going against the number one, you're like, "Oh man, what are we doing here? We're going so fast."
100%. And it's that mentality that he had. Even though we were going fast, he always felt like we could be faster. And
Right,
and that's
right.
that is what did it for me. I knew I wanted to coach ball, but I didn't know I wanted to coach college football until I met Dino Babers and I saw how he carried himself. And then
Right.
having Kim McLeod and the rest of that staff, those guys are very personable guys. And yeah, man, they always wanted more. And I loved
Mhm.
it.
Oh, Ken McLeod was awesome.
Yeah,
Talking to him a
man.
couple times. Uh, and the wide receiver coach, can I remember his name for the life of me? I
The
can't
the
remember.
the OC, the Jedi himself. You talking about Sean Lewis?
Yeah, Sean Lewis, he was tight ends coach at the time. I know.
Yeah,
Uh,
Sean Lewis. He had that whole room, man. Like even though they did kind of split it up and whatnot, I learned so much from just listening to him and his mentality about being a Jedi. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Being out there on the field and just being a master at your craft. All of the receivers and tight ends, they kind of work together and they embodied that. Especially
right.
during that 2-year stint, they were as detailed as I've ever seen. Next
Yeah.
to our receivers coach right now, who's at Western Illinois, Vince Jeffries. That was probably the most detailed work that I had seen.
Hmm. Well, it's another small world because maybe a touchy subject, but the tight ends coach you guys just lost, Cole Hoover. He went
Yeah,
he went back to Eastern. I coached him in high school, and his when I walked on, his dad was the old line coach at Eastern, and that's the year that he died in the car accident coming
yeah,
back
man.
from Southern. And I'll never forget walking into coach basketball at Charleston, and I said, "Who is this kid?" And they go, "It's Cole Hoover." And I'm like, "Hoover? What?" They're like, "Oh, his dad, died." I was like, "Oh my god, I know who his dad is." Now I'm coaching his kid. Uh,
Yeah.
he walked on to Eastern, earned a scholarship, played for 5 years or whatever it was, and uh, I know the timing wasn't right to leave, but like Eastern's his home because his dad was like where he wants to be.
The one thing that I'm learning, especially in my youthful 29 years, is that the right time is very hard to come by.
Yeah,
Like it's almost never the right time.
right.
You got to make moves with your heart. You got to trust God and just go. And that was one of the things that I learned about Cole Hoover, not just in being a teammate of his, but working alongside Cole Hoover. He wasn't waiting for the right time. He didn't care about the right time. The right time is right now.
Uh-huh.
And that was his mentality, man. Like Cole is a dog. Like
Yeah.
he is one of them ones, man. And I'm so excited to see what he does until we play him, of course. But I'm still very excited to see what Cole Hoover does, man. Not just in his career, but in his life, man. That dude is legendary.
Oh, I
Just
know.
he's a living legend, 100%.
Oh, I know because Coach Wilson, the OC at Western, he's been on here once. Me and him keep in
Nice.
touch. So when I saw Cole got hired there, I texted him. I was like, "You better take care of my kid," and he don't need my help. Like
Hey,
he don't need my help.
straight up, straight up, man. Cole is definitely one of them ones, man. And so is Coach Wilson. It,
Oh
it's
yeah.
uh, it's beautiful, how the staff came together. You look around and you're surrounded by guys who are, legendary in their own right. So I'm
Hmm.
I'm in a really really good place, man, around some really good men.
Hmm. Where so after college, did you try? I can't remember. Did you try pro or did you go like straight to coaching?
Briefly, so throughout my career at Eastern Illinois, I was a dual sport guy. So
Yeah.
I played football and I ran track. I was a
Yeah.
hurdler. So, I did the whole pro day thing. I did the whole Canadian Football League tryout thing, and I just straight up wasn't good enough. You know what I mean? My body was breaking down from playing multiple sports over the
Hmm.
course of 5 years, and I had to keep it a buck with myself.
Yeah.
It's time to hang it up, Coach Walk, and pick up that whistle. And
Yeah.
as soon as I put that whistle around my neck, though, and I stepped in those white lines, I knew I was where I was supposed to be. And shout out to Coach Cordell. I can't even call him Jeremy. Shout out to Coach Cordell, man, the guy who coached me in high school. He was the first guy to hire me onto his staff. It was Jeremy Cordell and it was Scott Lewis. Two guys that had a whole lot of confidence in me coming out of college. And yeah, as soon as my career was over as an athlete, jumped right into coaching, man, and I ain't looked back since.
That's awesome. And now you're Now, where'd you grow up?
So
Like,
I grew up. So I'm born and raised Humboldt Park, Chicago, Illinois. So on the
yep.
west side of Chicago. As I got older, my mom, she began to, seek for places to plant her family where we were going to grow and continue to grow and be okay. And she didn't feel like, Humboldt Park on the west side of Chicago
Hmm.
was one of them places. We had outgrown it,
Yeah.
so we moved to Wheaton, Illinois,
Yep.
and I ended up going to Glencrest Middle School, seventh grade, at the end of my seventh grade year. Um, and it was a culture shock, man, to say the least. But yeah,
And we.
born and raised Humboldt Park, grew up Wheaton, Illinois.
Oh yeah.
It's two total opposites, man. It blew my mind.
Yeah. Because like I said, I grew up in Champaign, like outside of Champaign by Danville. Then I went to
Yeah.
Eastern. I met my now wife at Eastern. She went to York in
Oh,
Elmhurst. She got a job in Naperville. So then in 2018, it was the perfect time to move because me and the coaching staff at Charleston did not get along, and I was done with it. It was a toxic environment. I was the only one not born and raised from in Charleston on staff, if that kind of gives a little hint of what I
right.
was dealing
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
We moved up here, lived with our parents for like 6 months in Elmhurst, hopped over to Naperville. So when you're
Hey,
talking,
you in some good spots, dog. Elmhurst, Naperville.
what
two real good spots, man. I love both of those places.
we're safe. Let's just say that we were safe no matter where
Absolutely.
we
To
were.
say the least, dog. Absolutely. 100%.
And then I've coached everywhere up here. I coached when I lived in Elmhurst for that 6 months. I coached at Lombard East over in Lombard, and
Nice.
then coached at East Aurora. Now those two were culture shocks. Like you want to talk about me coming from the cornfields, living in Charleston for years. Then I coached at Lombard East. I thought that was a culture shock. I go to East Aurora, and I'm like, oh my god! Like you had gang members, you had this, you had
Yeah.
this. I remember I was a yeller coach, like really got after it. And I'm yelling at these offensive linemen, and the coach is like, "You can't do that. Do you know who these kids are?" And I was like, "I don't give an f who these. I'm young, 20 something." They start coming to me the next day, and I'm like, "Oh god, they're going to jump me. Like something's going to happen." And they're like, "Nobody's talked to us that way before. We respect you. If you're in trouble in Aurora, call this number." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Hey, man, if your O line ain't protecting and serving everybody, you're doing it wrong, man. That's what's up.
Man,
That is the story right there. They gave you a card
oh
saying, "I
yeah,
have my people call your people."
I know. They're like,
That's
you get in trouble, you call this number, and I'm like, okay. And I put in my, I was like, but then I realized they respected me, I think, because we were like the dad figure. So I don't think they ever had that.
absolutely,
So then,
absolutely.
so my O line in that year became mine. So if another coach tried that, they were like, no, we're Steve, we're Coach Steve at, like, we're not talking to you. And I'm like, okay. So there is
Right.
something to this.
That loyalty, man, and honestly, it's a big part of recruiting. You know what I mean? It's learning the style of the person that's in this area or that comes from this particular school, and
Right.
also a big part of the reason why I love being in the South. As of right now,
Yeah.
recruiting the Polynesian population, they just
Mhm.
have a different type of mentality about themselves.
Right.
When it comes to them, when it comes to African people and things of that nature. They have a different mentality. A lot of them had to get it out the mud and
Yep.
they different, man. Like they're protectors, and
Mhm.
you love that type of stuff, especially in this game. But that's not saying that everybody else ain't that way. That's just saying that this particular group of people, they a
Mhm.
little different.
Oh, yeah. They would almost get in fights in the game, but then I had to give them that look if they looked at me like, and I give them that look like, don't do it. And they're like, they'd look at me and be like, oh, okay.
Yep.
Like I won't do it, but they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And just because of who they were, they're like, I ain't no punk like this, and I have to come over and be like, I understand. Next time, why don't you just lay them out? Like, you have my
Mm-hmm.
full permission to get that shot in. What if I get a flag? And I'm like, I'll take the blame from the head coach.
Right.
Don't
Right.
worry about don't you worry about it. As long as it's clean or like not going for the head, we're all good. Like that type of stuff. And
No
they've never
doubt.
been
That's
told
big
that.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Or like if they, you know how it is, you get in piles and something happens, and the guy's like, "Well, he's doing this," and I'm like, "Then sneak your way in to do something. Like do something about sneak your way in and don't get caught."
See, you a better man than me. See, me, I'm like, nah, you bet not. You wait till that whistle blow. Because for me, I've been hit after the whistle before.
Right.
I've been hit while I wasn't looking,
Mm-hmm.
and as a player, those weren't the people that I respected. It was the person who kicked my butt,
Yep.
like during the play, looked me
Mm-hmm.
in my eyes and straight up dominated me, which did not happen that often. But it did happen. It did happen. I remember one time in particular, we're playing Southern Illinois Carbondale. I'm a sophomore at the time, or actually a junior at the time. Kim Dameron's the head coach.
Yep.
I'm running down there on kickoff, and I meet a dude that's just as bad as I am. And he looked me in my eye, and I looked him in his eye, and we went at it. And he kicked my butt.
Mm-hmm.
He did, man. He got the better of me. But those are the guys that I respected a whole lot.
Oh, right. Oh no,
Absolutely.
I told my kids to do it during the whistle, but you better do it to where you're not getting caught. Like no
No
blind
doubt.
side, no blind side, but like if you have a moment and you let them know who you are for just that split moment, you're good, like,
Exactly, man.
and then now I'm at Addison Trail and it's just a completely different type of population that you have to deal with, especially because I'm from the cornfield. So I'm like, okay, you go to Addison Trail and it's just completely different, high Hispanic population and stuff like that.
Facts.
But it's different, like, and
No
I
doubt.
have to adjust to it. So I had to, but I took the job during COVID like an idiot because I didn't think COVID would last that long. So I was like, yeah, I'll hop over here, and then
Yeah, COVID did a number. COVID definitely did a number, man. But the beauty of your situation, man, is you have been a lot of places.
oh
You've come across many different types of people, man. I imagine you might be somewhat of a cultural chameleon, especially if you could exist at a place like East Aurora.
I was there for Coach. I'm gonna tell you a fun. It's ridiculous. So during COVID, I was coaching football at East Aurora, but I was working at a different middle school in a different school district. Whatever. COVID hits. I'm still working at the middle school. Addison needs a football coach. They would hire me for football, but they couldn't promise me a job in the building because of COVID. They didn't know it was going to happen. And I was like, that's cool. I get it. But the stipend was going to go up by like $3,500 from East Aurora to Addison. And I was like, well, I can't say no. Well, then I wanted a basketball spot. They didn't have any. So Neuqua Valley had one. And they told me you could be our sophomore B coach and just basically do nothing. And I said, you got it. Took that job. They needed a girls track coach for shot and disc. Took that. So I was coaching football at Addison Trail, doing those two at Neuqua Valley. The next year, Addison brings me in the building. Still no basketball spot. So I still do basketball in Neuqua Valley. I live in Naperville. I'm like, cool, I'll just leave, act like I'm going home, go to Neuqua, coach basketball, do whatever. Spring rolls around. Addison has no spring spots open. I said, okay, I'll take the spring off. Well, York's baseball coach went to high school with our athletic director, called him and said, hey, I cannot find a coach for one of my baseball teams. Do you have a coach? Brings me down and says, hey, you want to coach baseball at York? So I was coaching football at Addison Trail, basketball at Neuqua Valley, and baseball at York, all in one time.
That's some stuff right there. Where is Neuqua Valley? Ain't that in Naperville?
It is in Naperville.
Dang, that's a trip right there, man.
It's down Route 59 on your way to Plainfield. And it's out. It's like,
yeah,
I live right by I-88, like right off I-88. So to get to Naperville is an extra 15 minutes.
Yeah,
and
man.
So they were real good to me. Like I'd get out of school at 3:00. I'm not getting there till 3:30. Practice starts at like 3. And they're like, you can come for a half hour late. And then if they go lift after practice, you could be the one supervising it for an extra half hour to make up for it. And I was like, perfect. They were real good to me.
Nice. That's what's up, man. A little flexibility.
But coaching 3 different high schools in the same year was a lot. But like it goes to what you said. I think I counted. I've been at like 7 or 8 high schools for different sports. So I've seen it all. I've seen the hood. I've seen Neuqua Valley, not the hood, but like East Aurora to me is like the most hood you're going to get for me. Not in the city. You go to Neuqua Valley where money's no problem. You got to pay $300 to play sports. Here's a check. Like it's no problem. You go to York, same thing. Pinkies up type of thing. No problem. You go to Addison Trail where you're like, hey, I need $90 for this football camp. And they're like, what? Like, I've seen it all. I've seen all walks of life.
You've never, my question is this. You ain't never walked into one of them schools, Addison Trail, and said, go Dukes? Or anything like that on accident? Like, let's go Dukes. And they looking at you like, we the Blazers, man. What you mean?
Oh, my God. Because, like, I had to rush to get to practice. We got to school at 3. York gets out like 3:12. It's a weird time. So I have to run downstairs and change. So I'm running out of the school with my York stuff on, and I walk through the coaches center where my other desk is, and I walk through and I'm walking with York stuff on, and two people would always throw something at me as soon as I walk through. They're like, "What are you doing wearing that?"
Throw a tomato at you or something like that on the way. That's funny. That is
Or
funny.
if it's Spirit Week and one of the days is green, I bring 2 shirts. I bring a regular green shirt, but I'll walk in with York on first. And as soon as I walk in, get that fucking shit off. And I'm
Right,
like,
right. Yeah, that's how it is. I guess with York, Addison Trail, all the schools in that area, there's a healthy little rivalry going on. That's what I loved about high school sports, man. Like even when Jeremy Cordell had got to Glenbard South, my sophomore year, it was like 2009, 2010. And this is when Chad Hetlett had Glenbard West rolling,
yep,
and they were rolling everybody. They had some of the best players in the country on their team at the
right,
time. Man, that rivalry right there, Glenbard South to Glenbard West, and I don't know if we could even call it a rivalry because we got our butts kicked by Glenbard West when we played them. But the older generation, they could call it a rivalry
right.
for sure, man. But I love that part of DuPage, the rivalry that goes on there. I love that part of Chicago Public League. There's a big time rivalry between Morgan Park, Simeon, and
Hmm.
the Catholic League and things like that. So it's awesome, man. It's real good stuff, and it's good football. It's good for the youth, and it's great for recruiting.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially because, like, with York, because, like, our conference is split in 2. So you have the gold side and the silver side. We're on the gold side. York's on the silver side.
Ain't that
And,
something?
and so, like, with football, there's a rolling crossover. So you'll play one team from the other side for 2 years, and then it goes to a different team for 2 years.
Nice.
Um, and so when I started coaching baseball at York, before I even accepted it, I went to every head coach at Addison. I'm like, is this going to cause an issue? Because if it is, I'm not going to do it. And
Mm-hmm.
they said no. Baseball, we play each other once. So I had to coach against Addison Trail freshmen in baseball. That part was awkward, but outside of that, they were like, we don't play them in basketball. We don't play them in football for like 8 more years. So they were like, go for it. It was just that one baseball game, and it was at Addison. So I had to go to Addison. And I'm standing there in my York stuff, and parents are looking at me, and they're like, don't you coach basketball and football here? I'm like, yeah, sorry. Sorry
My
about
bad.
that.
Man,
They're
you
like,
gotta
what do
do
you
what you gotta do.
like? Yeah, they're like, why are you doing this? And I went like this. I was like, because they're going to pay me to do it. So
No doubt.
I got to do it. Um,
Absolutely.
now I do softball at Addison, so it's all cool now. They're like, oh, okay. But yeah, I didn't think about that till you said that. Like, I feel like I can talk to anybody now because I've been around these type of kids and
Oh yeah.
and all these different types of coaching staffs and jumping from place to place and having to relearn how to talk to people. Because if you go to a new coaching staff and they've been around, they have their inner jokes, they have this cohesiveness, and you have to come in and try to fit in. And I've had to do that so many times; it's just second nature now. To like
Absolutely.
and doing like this, like just a podcast. Like I've been doing it since COVID, and so like talking to different people has really helped. And it helps with going back to recruiting. You may not be recruiting one of my kids, but if I'm coaching against a kid that somebody's recruiting and I know the college coach, I've had a couple text me or send me a message. Hey, you just coached against so and so. What did you think? And I'll
Mm-hmm.
help other kids get recruited. Like that way, I'll tell them the truth. Like, oh yeah, this kid's the real deal. Or are you sure? Because he just happened. We played Lombard East in the playoffs this year. This defensive end is getting recruited by like Miami of Ohio. The defense coordinator of Miami of Ohio went to Addison Trail in high school. And so we played against him. I said, hey, give me that guy's number. I texted him. I was like, are you sure? Because I did not have to double team him. And our quarterback make him look silly. And it was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
he's just a bad game. But it's that type of stuff. Like I could give you guys insight of like, hey, I coached against this kid. If you guys have questions, let me know because I'm not going to hold it against the kid. Like, oh no, screw him. No, I want them to get recruited and go play.
Exactly right. Yep. And that's the whole point, man. That's what it is for me. Just being a kid that's from or a guy that's from the inner city. I remember being a kid, and I remember my brother being really, really good at everything he did, but it not even mattering that much just because of where he was. He went to Orr. Went to Orr Career Academy on the west side of Chicago, broke all their passing records, broke all their rushing records as a quarterback, and then transferred to Proviso East. And
Mm.
things just didn't work out for him. And it was mainly about location and
Right.
exposure and things of that nature. And whether or not people were advocating for him when he was at, or I don't know. I don't know how that went, but I could imagine they didn't have as much resources as Naperville North did,
Hmm.
that year and so on. So as long as we keep advocating for these kids, man, that's what it's all about. To get these guys to college, hopefully they can go for little to no money and be able to put food on their table when it's all over.
Proviso East. You want to talk about a tough place?
Yeah, man. I
Woo.
almost went to Proviso East, oddly enough, but my mom was like, absolutely not.
No.
No, sir. Now, it was really right after my sophomore year of high school. Right after my sophomore year of high school, we had a legendary coach and Coach Starkey,
Yeah.
Coach Dan Starkey, man. He is the man. And I really wanted to play for Dan Starkey. And I remember when he came into the little theater at Glenbard South and he told us all he was leaving. Um, I don't know about everybody else, but my eyes weren't dry for a long time after that. I was hurt. And that was
Hmm.
the first time I had experienced, what it's like to lose a coach and him not, him still be alive and whatnot. He's leaving, he's going to a program so he could do more and do better for his family and things of that
Hmm.
nature, man. So having that thing happen to even Dino Babers and that staff, the way they went
Yep.
and seeing all of those things, you know, I guess cultivate themselves, it kind of really let me know, like, when it's my time, like, I got to advocate for these kids, man. And not only that, like, I have to make sure that I'm leaving the type of impression that Dan Starkey left on me.
Right. I was about.
He's
I was going to say,
good.
like, what did you learn from like high school coaches or at college at Eastern, like that you took to your coaching career? Like, did you take anything from
Oh,
them?
man, dude, nuggets, like everything, from catchphrases to just the way you carry yourself, man. Like, be who you are. And that was one of the things that I learned from Kim McLeod. He wasn't faking for nobody
Hmm.
at all. He gonna talk about you. You might not like it, but you gonna love it,
Right.
eventually. And from Dino Babers, it was really all about preparation. Dino Babers was probably one of the more prepared individuals that I was around, and just
Hmm.
his way of thinking kind of took over my brain. We were all kind of brainwashed, so to speak, into believing that everything was all good at all times, even when it wasn't. It's still all good. It's still 75 degrees outside, even when it's 20 degrees outside. And
Right.
we were able to take our mindset to a whole nother level with Dino Babers. And then with Sean Lewis, details, be a Jedi,
Hmm.
be the alpha, things of that nature. But again, like, I'm fortunate. I'm fortunate enough to have been around some great men in my life, the majority of which were coaches. So it's only right that I became a coach. I didn't understand what was happening when I was a kid growing up, but all
Hmm.
my friends saw it before I did. I
Right.
remember being 12, 13, 14 years old, and some of my friends saying, "Yo, L, man, you're going to be a coach one day." And I used to hate it. Like, I could not stand when people said that, because I thought they was telling me that I sucked at sports, which I did. I was not very good at sports at all until I was in eighth grade. But they said all of this because I'm watching these guys do what they love to do with passion and be responsible and all of those things. And I was taking after them. I was just doing everything that I saw them doing.
Right.
So this has been going on for a long, long time. Even the guys that I coach with right now, we have some rock stars on our staff, not just Coach Wilson, not just Coach Davis, but we got a D-line coach, Ashton Derrico. We got a receivers coach, Vince Jeffries. We got a linebackers coach, Brandon Kretschmer, and the list goes on and on. All of these guys are incredibly special. They have special ways of thinking and being that makes you want to lock in and focus. And it
Hmm.
makes you want to take the best parts of them and, somehow incorporate it into what you do well, change your game a little bit as a coach. So yeah, man, I've taken so much from every coach that I've ever been around. So shout out to everybody that does what I do at a very high level. Even the people that are at a high level, they still watching YouTube because I'm one of those people.
Right. Um, you talked about you as a kid trying all different types of sports for being active. I'm seeing it, and I don't know if you're seeing it. Are you hearing or seeing kids doing that less and less? Because I remember growing up, it was either work or play sports. And like, well, I got the rest of my life to work. I'm going to play sports. So you were doing two or three or trying something. Kids now
Mhm.
are trying to just do one, or they're trying to just maybe do two, and they're not going to go do sports. They'd rather go do something else. Are you
Mhm.
guys seeing that in recruiting at all? Because I'm seeing it. I don't know if you're starting to see that a little bit, or is it a trend
Mhm.
that's starting to happen?
It really all depends on where you go. But I am seeing a lot more specialization
Hmm.
than I ever have before. And I get it. Life is changing. The world is changing. Football's changing. Every sport's changing. Everybody's better.
Hmm.
These kids are unbelievable. Like some of the stuff that I've seen on the recruiting trail, you know, from watching camps and watching practices and stuff going around recruiting. These kids are on another level. And if I was as good as some of these kids are right now, I probably would have specialized in football too. But to me, I was good, but not like these kids.
Hmm.
So some of these kids they have that as an option. That was not an option for me because I just was not that good.
Hmm.
And another thing that they have is the ability to monetize
Hmm.
once
Yep.
they specialize, and that's next level stuff right there. So when that's on the line, yeah, like I could see why there's been a lot more specialization than trying a bunch of different sports. And even when I was a kid, like I say, I was not that good. I believed in myself. I was very high achiever when it came to
Uh-huh.
that. But trying, that's the key word. I wasn't good at every sport I played. And I was grateful enough to be around people that was going to keep it a buck with me. Ryan Chrissy is one of those people. Not only him, but Wade Hartkey, the varsity basketball coach at Glenbard South. He straight up told me, like, man, I'm gonna tell you, you are not good at this sport. You could probably be good if you put the work in, but man, you made this team because you are the quarterback on that team. And
Hmm.
it's like, okay, I get it. And that's I could have wasted time trying to play basketball, or I could have took that time and put it into something else, like becoming a better student or getting bigger for football because I was a tiny guy all throughout high school. And, the list goes on and on. But yeah, man, I'm seeing a lot of kids that are specializing more than I ever have in the past. But I think today there's more of a reason for it than there ever has been.
Yeah. In my And I agree with that. It's just I think it's hard for me when I watch kids specialize when I know, well, because they think they're going to go Division 1, and that's their
Mm-hmm,
thing. I'll give you an
mm-hmm,
example. I'll give you an example. When I got to York, this kid was a sophomore playing varsity. As a sophomore, already signed to go to Wake Forest, and he was projected third round draft pick as a pitcher. That kid only chose to play baseball after that. And I said, I get it. Because you have that on the line, that's fine. When I'm seeing seniors that are not being recruited, but they want to specialize, I have a problem with it. Or
yeah,
like I just try to tell them like get most out of this experience because it may end sooner than you think. And so
absolutely.
those type
Yeah,
of kids, yeah, I try to get them to do both. Now, like you said, now if there's a super athletic kid and he's really good at this, really good at this, and he has a chance, I have no problem with specializing early on because that's going to be their way. No problem with that. Um, but like when these kids tell me I'm going Division 1, I got to be the jerk to say, "Are you sure?" Like, well,
well,
and
that
then
don't make you a jerk. That's not. I don't think it makes you a jerk because I had probably the most influential and probably one of the more important male figures in my life. Straight up, to he sat in my kitchen and told me, "You ain't playing D1 football, dude. I don't know what you thought. You ain't big enough. You ain't strong enough. You smart enough and you fast enough, but the other two things matter. You
mhm,
won't play Division 1 football. You'll play D2 football at best." And he didn't say it like that, but
mhm,
he was very cut and dry because he loved us, and that's
right,
Jeremy Cordell. Literally sat in my kitchen and said those things to me, but I knew that he knew what he was doing. Like
mhm,
it was either I was gonna fold and mold myself to what he said, or I was gonna rise above it. And he had played a very big part in creating that mentality. So I don't think you a jerk for telling the kid that, look, this might not be that realistic. But then again, you know, that's why we dream.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we dream, man. Dreams oftentimes feel way better than reality.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm literally living in a dream right now. You know what I
Oh yeah.
mean? Like, this is a part of my reality now, and it feels great every day. So some kids, man, they do need to be told that, like, look, man, you just not that. You're not. And if their work ethic is worth a damn, they gonna get in that lab, and they gonna become all of the stuff that they think that they are. Because
Mm-hmm.
that's what happened to me, man. I wasn't anything, man, and I had to become that. But it took a little motivation. It took some doubt. It took some naysayers,
Mm-hmm.
and that's cool.
Yeah. Well, the longer conversation is I tell them the truth, but then I also sit there and say, but if you get it, I'm going to be your biggest supporter because
Hell
I,
yeah.
I tell them, prove me wrong. Like in certain, whatever, it doesn't have to be Division One. It could be something else. Like we don't know who our running back's going to be this year. I have a kid that wants to play running back, but he hasn't done it necessarily what I need him to do yet until right now the summer has hit. So now he wants to, and I'm the jerk that says it may be too late, but I will get you faster. I will get you this, and I want you to prove me wrong. And he always says bet, and I'm like, can we just say okay instead of bet? But okay, he's like bet, and I'm like okay,
But
and I told the girls in softball, I'm like, put my face on the softball and hit it. If you want me to be the motivational factor, cool. I do not care.
mhm,
Prove me wrong. And I'll sleep better at night knowing you prove me wrong. I'm not here to be proven right to say your life isn't going to be this. No,
absolutely.
prove me wrong.
Yeah, we want to see you do the impossible, so to speak. You
Right.
know, that's what's up, man. But yeah, that's why we do what we do.
Okay. I know I've had you on for a long time. I got two more things and then you can get back to driving.
For sure. Holla at your boy.
The first question is Western Illinois, you go there, you're hired there. It's a program that sort of kind of has to be turned around. It has a history to it. We all know the history a little bit if they've ever paid attention. A guy I work with went to Western, and Western, he goes, we're the team that beat Tony Romo from Eastern and knocked them out of the playoffs. Like he always lives with that. He goes, but ever since then, it hasn't. What's the mindset of coming in, trying to build it back to what it used to be?
I think that's the thing. We're not even trying to do that, and I don't want to speak for Coach Davis or anybody. In that regard, we're not trying to be what we used to be. Um,
Okay.
I think this is a whole new era. It's a whole new feel. It's different than Western Illinois has ever been, and I think that's the point. This is going to be one of the best times in the era of Western Illinois University football, and it's going to be because we're not trying to be, what was already here.
Uh huh.
That's history. That's etched in stone. That's forever. We're going to take that and we're going to use that to be better than that. and
Okay.
and that's
Yep.
the plan, man. That's the goal. I've played against Western Illinois football teams. Some of our coaches on our staff have seen Western Illinois football teams, coached against Western Illinois football teams. I've gotten my butt kicked twice by Western Illinois football teams as a Panther. So I,
Yep.
I remember what that was like. I remember
Mhm.
that vibe. I remember everything about it. And I know that what we're getting ready to create, what we're cultivating right now, is going to be better than that product that beat us. And it's going to take some time. It's going to take some hard work. It might take some sleepless nights. It's going to take some fun. It's going to take some plays being made. It's going to take for us to bring in the right guys to get the job done. But yeah, man, like it's going to take what it takes.
Mhm.
And we won't even know that until we start to collect some of these wins.
Yeah. Yep.
When we start collecting some of these wins, we'll know exactly, where we are. If we've been barking up the right tree, so to speak, if we have the right guys in our program or in the right position, because sometimes you might have the right pieces. They just got to be in the right place,
Right.
so
Right.
that's what we're on course to do right now, man. Just being able to capture the hearts and minds of our team and make sure that these guys understand that we all here for one common goal. We gonna win.
Mhm.
We gonna win.
Yeah.
And then when it's all said and done, you guys are going to be able to put food on your table. That's the other goal.
Right. Last thing, was it weird to go to Western after playing at Eastern, being
No,
third?
absolutely not. I can't wait to see the Panthers. I don't know what week it is. I don't even care what week it is. Just know When we see each other, we gonna see each other, and that's the best part about all of this stuff, because I know what we're getting.
Right.
I know exactly what it is that we're getting. Versus that product. They've done a great job. They've turned things around. And not to mention, I've played in the OVC. I remember
Hmm.
when Austin P was not very good, and we would
Hmm.
put 70, 80 points on Austin P. And now they ain't nothing to play with. You know
Right.
what I mean? So
Right.
anybody could turn it around. Dino Babers, showed me that in my first year, going from worst to first and then doing it back to back
Oh
and
yeah, that
being
was.
one of the nation's best
Ooh,
teams. Come on now.
ooh.
Statistically number one in every major category. That's something that is very doable
Right.
at Western Illinois University under the leadership of Joe Davis. He's a different type of dude, man, and I'm grateful that I get to be a part of his inaugural staff, man. And I'm gonna do everything I can to make sure that we prove him right.
Ooh, those you just brought back memories from those times. Ooh,
Yeah, man, it was a crazy time. It was a crazy time, man, and that's what I tell my guys here, man. I've I'm able to bring up things that I've experienced in my past, in hopes that my guys could experience something way better. And that's saying a lot, because I had a lot of fun, back in those days, and we won a lot of games and learned a whole lot from the coaching staff. But let's go ahead and do that better.
I guess this is the last thing I want to shout out. It wasn't just the Eastern offense; it was you guys on defense too. It was hand in hand. Like you guys had
Yeah,
to make
man.
big plays, just like how they had to make big plays. So people
Absolutely,
forget
man.
that.
Shout out Kim McLeod and that D staff, man. Those guys done an awesome job. And, even after Kim McLeod and, Eastern Illinois' defenses have always been pretty stout,
Yeah,
from back in the day. And, having Kane Womack and the rest of the guys, lead that charge as well, man. So defense wins championships. Ain't that what they say?
oh, and you guys had to. Like,
No
I
doubt,
mean,
man.
people just remember Jimmy G and everybody, but I'm like, I remember that defense being super fast, run all over the place. I'm like, you got to
Oh,
give a
yeah.
shout out to that.
Absolutely, man. We had to be, just because of what we were seeing on offense every day, and that same thing is holding true, man. Because Joe Davis is a different type of dude, man. He's a beast.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, Coach, I appreciate you pulling over, be on your phone, talking to me,
Absolutely,
remembering each other. Great talk. It was awesome.
most certainly, Coach. Hey, keep doing your thing, man. I love it. Thanks again for having me on, man.